¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. Shoosh, I better start on time. If not, Anodyne is gonna yell at me. Happy Tuesday from a very sunny, warm London. Good to have you here. Thank you so much. Just dropping by because we used to hang out, just showing support. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the follow. I'm just not sure, who you are, but I appreciate that. I can't believe we're getting the heat wave warning all the way up here in Michigan, too. Yikes. We've got a few things to go through, that's for sure. Looks like New York is going to be fine. Only a high 85 for this week. Must be nice. My Call of Duty Zombies buddy way back. Oh, shoot. Oh, man. I'm not exactly... let's see. Without saying too much info. Let's see. How can I say without saying? I'm trying to think. London is going up to 88 degrees on Friday. Yeah. Yikes. It's summer. Summer's kicking into high gear. Don't worry, I'll yell at you even if you start on time. Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Somebody's got to keep everybody in line. Okay. The Ween plays. Is this the Viking? No, it's not. Stop spreading Sumerian propaganda. Summer doesn't start until next week. Lies, okay? Summer starts earlier now, okay? Summer starts earlier now. Starting later today. Help me so you have a prize for mind reading. See? You read that, Anodyne? I won a prize for for starting a few minutes later than normal. It's supposed to be 105 degrees here tomorrow. We usually never make it past 90. Yikes. Jeez. To be fair, I'm here because my work got pushed back 3 hours due to a server outage. Yikes. I guess we could call that a happy coincidence, a happy break. Shoot. I got it wrong? Okay. Hmm. Well, now I'm stumped. Because I have an idea. But I also... Spread it forward, how's it going? Name starts with... Okay, so we'll play this game. Name starts with S. Or... Name starts with J. Where are all the climate changing denying gas guzzler coal rolling bastards at now? Probably talking to probably talking to Joe Manchin. In London it was yeah, okay. I know who it is. Hey, how's it going? I did just dox myself. I did that. Clip it and spread it around, folks. Clip it and ship it. Let it be known that it is true that I did play Call of Duty Zombies. And let it be known that it is also true that I played it with somebody that starts with the letter J. In London, it was 100 degrees in 2003. Yikes. Well, how's it going? I hope you're doing all right. I knew you were friends with the Jonas brother. True. This is completely a verifiable fact. It's been a while. Good to see you. It's good to know that you're hanging out in the chat. Thank you so much. It's definitely been a while. I hope you're doing all right. Plot twist, I'm actually Joe Jonas. Oh man. Wait till Anodyne finds out that I play guitar too. I also play guitar. The plot thickens. Jeez. The plot thickens. What if it actually turns out that Anodyne is the one who knows Joe Jonas? It's funny because they're normally here saying like the Earth works in cycles and we're actually in a cooling period. There's no way humans can be affecting the entire climate. Yeah, it gets all kind of blown in the water by what is proverbially known as facts. We are actually in a band. If global warming is real, then why does winter exist? True. Yeah, actually, the plot twist to this entire thing is all of us are actually in the same band. Yeah. I play the mandolin. Are we starting a band? Sure. Is it a thin day for news? I honestly like the news cycle mostly has been just about the same thing, which is the January 6th hearings. Um, but we do have at least a little bit um queued up here. So, just to kick things off, um, on top of like the unprecedented, record-breaking heat domes that happened over the weekend, I want to say, and are continuing, Yellowstone just had an unprecedented incident as well. There was a record flooding that basically stopped the entrances to the Yellowstone. We got floods, droughts, heat waves, and storms all across the country. True. That's right. All right, let's see how much we can get through. We are wrangling with our government, expected to fly asylum seekers to Rwanda today. Oh Lord. In the words of a very wise man, not good. Not good. Wait, why 90K? The price of flight divided by number of people sent. What? Huh. All right, folks, we got to kick this show off. Let's go. I'm delving into some block creation after ADT ends. I got Ween on the ready. Ween or Weed? Well, if you ever feel like sharing any of those blogs, feel free. We were talking about the Bandween. Okay, gotcha. I have a mandolin, by the way, Mayhem Hippie. I've got... Ooh, shoot. I've got a mandolin and... Well, you've seen the ukulele. I just really need to play it more often, to be honest. Any good news? We're all here? We're all here and an old friend decided to follow and stop by? Yay. That's good news. That's very good news. To me. My blog creation is for small local companies, writing social media posts for website clicks. I love my Mando rocking the Mando and banjo out on our porch last night. Nice. Oh, I see. So you create social media posts. You know, I could use some help learning how to do that because I'm not 100% on the social medias when I really should be. I need to ask some tips. That's for sure. All right, so some folks may have seen the January 6th hearings yesterday, and I think the day before. So I guess we'll start with some of that.
The question is on the motion to favorably report to the House. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We must stop this deal, and then we must ensure that such outrageous election fraud never happens again, can never be allowed to happen again.
You know, Biden won the election. There is no evidence anywhere that there was widespread fraud that could have overturned that result. Nonetheless, Trump has continued to say that he won and that Biden is not a legitimate president. And there are a large chunk of people who are supportive of Trump who still believe that. And so that is part of the reason that this committee really wants to, they're doing this hearing on Thursday in prime time because they want to try to get attention.
Stop the steal!
We know the basics of what happened on that day. It was on TV. It unfolded.
Yeah, like the people who are trying to tell me that this is just like not like a big deal. We watched all of this unfold live. Just a pro tip, it might be helpful to put your social media handles in your top bar instead of having the names of the platforms next to the icon. That might actually be a legit pro tip. I might have to edit some of that. I hate using the term clickbait, but it's a valuable tool for small companies. I'm working on a local contractor company right now where you focus his blog and social media on home improvement. Nice. Yeah, like it depends, because like you can have clickbait that is legitimate, right? Like it may be... Okay, so there's a difference between clickbait and like eye-catching, okay? So that we don't conflate the two, I think. Because like clickbait generally has a negative connotation, like you just put that title but yet had nothing to do with it, or it was like a ruse, versus like an eye-catching title. It's like, well, you know, maybe a little bit sensational, but the video is generally, or the blog post or whatever is generally about the topic that you're trying to catch people's attention to.
on television. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we still don't know. And the biggest question that they've been focused on is what Trump was doing during the riot and what he might have known about people who were coming to town, any links between the White House and the rioters, and especially, what he was doing in those minutes and hours that the insurrection unfolded. But even as people were breaking into the building, Trump was still tweeting, trying to get Pence to do what he wanted him to do, which was to try and overturn the legitimate election of Joe Biden.
Thank you for the follow. Lenny
There's the
1058.
domestic
Greetings from
extremism
South Boston.
component that we're expecting to see in one of the hearings.
Oh
with
my
a lot
God.
of the far right groups like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys who were organizing to a large extent before the insurrection. So I think we're going to see just sort of all of those different factors, a lot of the unanswered questions about exactly how it went down.
I mean, like, I think we got the idea as to how things unfolded. I think the real value of having the January 6th hearings public and trying to be put in front of as many eyeballs as possible is to have all of that kind of documented and put in a kind of neat little package for everybody to see, right? Along with testimonies and evidence, videos, communications, all of that. Just put it all in a nice package so that everybody can kind of get the TLDR of what exactly happened. Because, I mean, like, there's no real, like, mystery as to what went down, right? I mean, it wasn't a secret. It was all over multiple social media beforehand. And, well, months before even the election even kicked off, Trump himself was already laying down the groundwork for it, for something to happen. Not necessarily that, but something for something to happen. He was laying down the groundwork months before the election even kicked off. So it's not a secret. It shouldn't be a surprise. It's really just the value is really just having all of that kind of documented in one place, neatly wrapped up with a bow tie and everything, so that the American people can really get a grasp of the severity of the situation. I saw January 6th live and it was bad, but it has gotten even worse since. Yeah, like I don't even know. Like, it depends on, like, even the people that were watching it. Like, we all were here. The folks that were actually here that day, the folks that were here that day, that we were just like kind of, and I stopped my stream right before it really, really kicked off because I had to go. It was a Saturday. I remember it. I had to stop my stream right before it really kicked off, but we saw when the opening acts of violence, the beginnings of the insurrection happened, and it was just a bit surreal. All of social media knew. That's why I was already watching the live news that day. Exactly, like it wasn't a secret. They had freaking shirts printed out. They had shirts printed out. I agree. I must admit the production of the January 6th hearings is concise. However, Trump supporters will not budge from their ideology. I agree 100%. But it must be done. It must be done. The open Homeland Security hearings on it had way more relevant information than the actual January 6th committee. You think so? I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch all of that. Everyone in the category talking about gas and stuff, I just want my bike lanes. True. More bike lanes and better public transportation.
With their stated goal of getting that out there for history, and having done the most comprehensive investigation possible so it doesn't happen again.
So it doesn't happen again. That would require acknowledging accountability and then well, I mean, yeah, consequences. Oh, yikes, Astro. I actually I heard about that story. It was pretty bad. What the public wants is full transparency, as in who paid for buses, hotels, and who texted who. Yeah, exactly. America has an issue with an unhealthy lifestyle. Promote bikes. I don't think people should need cars just to get around the city they currently live in. Yeah, I believe the unhealthy lifestyle you're talking about is capitalism. Hopefully, after the hearings are complete, the DOJ will have the findings and go forward with prosecution. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I really do not think that any of that's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit cynical. Yeah, the building that was wrapped in highly flammable coating. It was a big mess. And I think a lot of codes and lawsuits happened afterwards. That's why I said hopefully. Yeah, in a you know, in a reasonable world, there is some clear as day evidence that some of this was organized. Cars were always meant for people in the country, then we started making cities very inefficient. Cool, welcome to capitalism. I don't know what to tell you. Ohio governor assigns bills allowing school employees to carry guns after 1 day of training. Because absolutely nothing can go wrong. With allowing folks to, you know, essentially act as de facto security guards with, you know, firearms with a day of training. Republican Governor Mike DeWine signed a bill into law on Monday that will allow education employees in Ohio to carry guns on school premises after having received just 1 day's worth at training. Just 1 day's worth of training at most. That's at most. Cool. Really solving the problems here. I'm sure that this will have no negative repercussions whatsoever, having a person who's not a law enforcement officer, and B, at most a day's worth of training. Cool. I'm sure that absolutely nothing could go wrong here. A mock cop has more training than 1 day with a can of mace. Yeah, and we're expected school employees, like teachers or staff, to not only act as a de facto officer, as a de facto law enforcement officer or security guard, on top of being a teacher, on top of having all that responsibility, but also the most training that you're gonna get, or I should say the least amount of training that you're gonna get to be allowed to have a firearm on you on school premises is a day at most. I guess a day at least, I should say. Just because someone lives in a place that is called the city does not mean that bike transport is a reliable transport. Rural cities operate differently. That's right, but I think that we should try as much as possible, in whatever ways possible, to reduce that. Like, for example, provide good public transportation, And any cities that are being revamped or created should be built around that idea of using as little cars as possible. If you live in a rural city, chances are, if the roads and bike lanes, you could cross the entire city in about 15 minutes, depending White Streak. It depends. It's just all about city planning from the beginning. And in the areas that you can, you absolutely should center around public transportation, bike lanes, and all that. Sure, absolutely. The law is an attempt to undo the effect of an Ohio Supreme Court ruling last year, which mandated that, per law at the time, school employees were required to undergo hundreds of hours of training before arming themselves in school. It takes effect this fall. Like, so basically, first of all, the fact that, like, so not only, wait, how does that even work? So you're a teacher who already has so much on their plate, does so much work off hours. Somehow, you have to squeeze hundreds of hours of training just if you want to arm yourself in the school. Like, how does that even pan out? It doesn't make any sense. And now we've got Republican Governor DeWine saying that, yeah, you know what? Maybe we don't need that much training. Farron already shared the story of a school that allowed teachers to carry guns. One teacher left his gun in the student access toilet. Nice! Because obviously, a day's worth of training is all you need to successfully carry a firearm in school with students. Nice. On top of your teacher duties. Cool. Very good. It makes sense. The law enacted requires up to 24 hours of training before an employee can go armed and up to 8 hours of annual training. Oh, good. So you spend like 1 day a year. Nice. Nice. Training programs must be approved by the Ohio School Safety Center, and DeWine announced that he's ordering the center to require maximum 24-hour and maximum 8 hours. The schools can provide additional training if they wish. The governor explained earlier this month that school districts can decide to designate armed staff for school security and safety, but they can still prohibit guns on campuses if they choose to do so. Okay. Before announcing the bill signing, the governor outlined several other school safety measures that he and lawmakers have promoted, including $100 billion for school security upgrades in school, and $5 million for upgrades at colleges. What does that mean? Are we getting new doors? The state is also adding 28 employees to School Safety Center to work with districts on safety issues and provide training under the new law. Literally anything. Okay. Ohio has also provided $1.2 billion in wellness funding for schools to address mental health and other issues, the governor said. Well, that's good. That's good. Having lived in NYC and surrounding areas, I can confirm that public transportation and trains are way better than cars. Also, never had to worry about getting home wasted or after a party. True. Are more than a day's worth of training to learn to ride a... You get more days... You get more than a day's worth of training to learn how to ride a bike on the road. Yeah, there's like more requirements, I think, to have a car than there is to arm yourself in school, apparently. Is it 1 day or 24 hours of training? 24 hours. It's a bad idea. Yeah, it's a horrible idea. New doors aren't going to do shit if they don't also fund the tripwires that set off the flamethrowers. True. Very true. After all, what else are we going to use those millions and millions of dollars? If not for that. The new law is giving schools an option based on their particular circumstance to make the best decision they can with the best information they have. What? The governor said his preference remains that school districts hire armed school resource officers. We tried that. We tried that. It doesn't work. It turns out when push comes to shove, the only thing that matters is that they come home. They're not going to go in. They're cowards. We've seen that time and time again. Like, just to be clear, the police response, the failure of the police response in Uvalde isn't new. The police response has been botched in almost every single incident. If you actually take back and start looking at the stories, the only difference is that there isn't as much scrutiny as it was now, as there is now. But if you look at the stories like Columbine, Parkland, all of these incidents, the majority of them, the police response was completely botched. I believe the police response in Pulse was also botched too. Alio, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. But said the governor said his preference remains that school districts hire armed school resource officers, but he's said the law is another tool for districts that want to protect children. Okay. He emphasized that it's optional and not a requirement. Cool, so nothing. Great. Awesome. Well, mayors of Ohio's biggest cities, including Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, planned an afternoon news conference to highlight gun violence in their community and outline their differences with governors over the governor over gun issues. Nan Whaley, a DeWine's Democratic opponent for governor, also planned a news conference after denouncing his decision to sign the bill. The signing came after a day a new law went into effect, making a concealed weapons permit optional for those legally allowed to carry a weapon. Sadly, there's too much evidence to praise most cops, but do it the UK way, not weapons blazing. Well, our police are trained to do one thing and one thing only, which is come home. That is the primary, centerpiece of the mentality. And, well, I found the video detailing all the new school security updates. Cool, let's check it out. Yeah, this is all, this is basically the GOP plan to stop the school, the next school incident, mass incident. It's even got the flamethrower, Anodyne. See, they got all the bases covered. Wow. Yeah, this is legit. No, anything but that, Dwayne. Literally anything but that. They aren't dealing with the actual problem. Anything but that. Democrats have said that the law sends the wrong message, coming so soon after the massacre of 19 children and 2 teachers at the elementary school in Uvalde. Republicans say the measure could prevent such shootings. Okay. Source. Lawmakers fast-tracked the legislation and countered the impact of a court ruling that said that under current law, armed school workers would need more than 700 hours of training, consistent with basic peace officer training in Ohio. The most basic of basic training programs require 700 hours of training. And you want to take that away. I'm sure that absolutely nothing could go wrong in this scenario. Listen, we're just gonna issue out licenses to drive to anybody. I mean, screw it, right? Anybody should be able to just drive without even passing a test or any type of driving course whatsoever. Sure. I mean, screw it, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong. Listen, if somebody gets convicted with a DUI, why not make them wait X amount of time, or why make them go through a rigorous process to make sure that they're able to drive again? Why do that? Let's just give them licenses. I mean, surely nothing could possibly go wrong. I mean, like, really. The measure is opposed by major law enforcement groups. No kidding. Gun control advocates and the state's teachers unions. Yeah, no kidding. These are not teachers or school employees, even whoever, from janitor to lunch lady to school bus driver. All of these state school employees are not law enforcement officers. Right, school shooter don't stand a chance. It's supported by a handful of police department and school districts. If I was a teacher and this was the solution put forth in front of me, I would be pretty angry. I would be pretty angry. I say this every time, but where is the teachers unions opposing this? From what this article says. I mean, you really can't expect teachers to also do this. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, if I was a teacher and this is the solution put forward to me by lawmakers, I would be very furious.
Below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Did we just miss our chance of keeping warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels? And why did private renewable companies pay New York politicians to oppose a climate bill? Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, a science writer. Today is Friday, June 10th. Let's jump right into the news you need to start your day. Let's start with some climate victories. The United Kingdom's Environment Agency set out a new 4-year roadmap to increase flood and climate resiliency. It builds on existing progress of making homes and transportation infrastructure more flood resilient, maximizing the use of nature to enhance.
Folks, before we continue, I need y'all to do me a favor, alright? Let's get some of these sub numbers up. Also, how terrifying it is to be surrounded by guns while you're just trying to get an education. I mean, like, it's dystopic AF. Like, you're going into school, passing metal detectors, essentially what looks like almost indistinguishable from a prison. Yeah, that might be a little bit terrifying. And then add the caveat that, like, well, maybe my teacher's armed. I don't know. What happens if something, goes sideways? I've seen so many videos of, like, kids getting into fights with each other, and then when teachers try to stop them, like, they kind of get physical with the teachers. Like, if the teacher has a gun on them or near them, I mean, and they have a day's worth of training. It's a recipe for disaster. I mean, like... Anyways, please, folks, we need those sub numbers up, right?
Flood and coastal resilience, enhancing flood warning systems and emergency procedures, and improving flood recovery processes. The government has put about £5.2 billion towards this effort. In North America, Canada launched a greenhouse gas offset credit system to reduce emissions. The system comes with rules of what constitutes a tradable carbon offset credit and what doesn't. It still seems like this plan heavily relies on companies giving money to carbon capture projects, like the ones that take emissions from landfills. Landfill emissions account for about 7% of Canada's total emissions output.
Jeez.
The government says protocols for offsets for 4 other sectors, including forest management and agriculture, are still underway. Canada's goal is to drop emissions by 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by 2030. Over in the United States, the Biden administration just floated draft regulations to create uniform standards for federal electric vehicle charging stations. This way, the charging stations will be more reliable with similar prices, charging speeds, and payment methods.
Nice. School using metal detectors, lockdowns. Yeah, it's very horrifying. Like a prison. It's almost indistinguishable, right?
President Biden has a goal to deploy 500,000 publicly available EV charging stations by 2030, and the infrastructure bill passed last year allocates $5 billion to this effort. The Department of Energy also announced a $504.5 million loan guarantee to go to the Advanced Clean Energy Storage Project in Utah. This is the first loan guarantee given to a clean energy project technology from the DOE Loan Programs Office since 2014. This will help finance the construction of the world's largest green hydrogen storage facility, which will be used to help generate electricity. The office still has $2.5 billion in loan guarantees to dole out. And California has committed $300 million to help tackle methane leaks.
Nice.
$200 million will go towards helping plug idle leaking wells, while $100 million will go towards methane detecting satellites to help track methane leaks in fossil fuel operations, landfills, and agriculture. California aims to cut methane emissions by 40% by 2030. Methane is 84 times a more potent greenhouse gas than CO2 for the first 20 years they're in the atmosphere. I said 82 yesterday, but it's actually 84. Now for a long list of climate fails. Mentally prepare yourself. According to the Climate Action Tracker, the lack of global desire to transition faster away from fossil fuels might be the nail in the coffin to keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
We did it, chat. We freaking did it. Good job. A round of applause for the handful of billionaires, or I should say the industries, a handful of industries that have successfully locked in a very, very, very tenuous future. But hey, at least they got a little bit richer, right? I mean, that's the silver lining, right? At least a handful of people got a little bit richer. Yeah.
We are currently at 1.1 degrees Celsius of warming. Keeping the warming below this point is important to avoid the worst climate impacts we can expect to see from global warming, particularly in emerging economies. Coral reefs face a complete die-off past 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. While countries have shown a bit more acceleration of clean energy projects, many are still heavily supporting and subsidizing new fossil fuel projects despite fossil fuel companies already having project permits that they're just sitting on. New liquefied natural gas, or LNG, plants are expected to be built in Germany, Italy, Greece, the Netherlands, Canada, the US, Qatar, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, Senegal, and others. Most of those Middle Eastern and African countries are on the list to satiate demand from Europe and North America.
which locks in the lifeline of these fossil fuels for decades to come, which of course isn't something we can afford. Yay. We've long needed an overhaul to public education, but this is not the direction I had in mind. And ain't that the truth? This isn't going to get these kids' mind off violence and fear. It's going to accelerate it, leading to more deranged killers. We need fun and inviting learning environments which foster healthy and collective groups of kids that get along with the end of the day. Yeah, I 100% agree. But the only solution we get is, like, I don't know, doors, metal detectors, and more guns for teachers. We put that responsibility on the teachers, too. Nice. We're doing great, folks.
We're basically repeating the mistakes we made during the COVID recovery period. Sweden, Japan, Korea, Austria, Germany, Poland, the Czech Republic, Croatia, Italy, Spain, Portugal, New Zealand, the Netherlands, France, and several US states are giving tax cuts to petrol and diesel despite fossil fuel companies producing record profits and still keeping prices high. Only Denmark plans to reduce fossil fuel subsidies and issue a carbon tax when gas prices start going down, which is the right time to do it because while gas prices will decrease more slowly from this, they won't be increasing. Some countries have begun issuing a windfall tax to fossil fuel companies like Italy, Spain, Bulgaria, Romania, and the UK. We need countries to instigate behavior changes that decrease fossil fuel consumption, like encouraging people to drive slower and less often, work from home if they can, not drive in cities, and turn down their home thermostats. But few countries are incentivizing these habits. So far, only California, New Zealand, Italy, Germany, and Ireland have produced incentives for public transportation. And the EU, UK, and Japan are pushing for faster adoption of heat pumps, electric vehicles, and overall electrification. But these efforts have still been insufficient. That was just a summary of the Climate Action Tracker's results. If you want to read more about how your country is falling short, click the source link.
I can take a guess at how we're doing.
Yes, our next goal, if 1.5 degrees Celsius is unreachable, is 1.8 degrees Celsius. We're currently on track to hit, I think, 2.7 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
Speaking of encouraging new fossil fuel projects, the UK gave permission for new drilling in the countryside south of London to establish a new gas field there. The Surrey County Council managed to block UK Oil and Gas's Locksley project since 2020. But the government has gone above their heads now in the name of increasing domestic production to reduce the energy crisis.
Okay,
the problem is, it takes years for new projects to actually start producing any output.
Right, and furthermore, we can reduce our necessity for these fossil fuels by deploying more and more renewables wherever possible, as quickly as possible. She mentioned earlier electrification of whatever appliances or systems that we can. That should be happening. That should have been happening, but yeah, I'm about to start working from home because of these gas prices. I do not blame you. They continue to rise. Even here, it's getting pretty pricey. It's like definitely above $4.50. I mean, like, folks who have the ability to work from home should be able to. Like, it should be kind of par for the course. If you have the capability to do your job from home, it should be, like, standard.
So using the argument of short-term relief doesn't really work. Either way, the company expects to start work on the site next year. Meanwhile, a report commissioned by Drax Group shows that the UK wasted enough power from wind turbines to power 800,000 homes in 2020 and 2021. Instead of installing battery storage or upgrading the grid to take in that power, the UK chose to shut off wind turbines during excess power supply to stabilize the grid. And the cost of turning off turbines went up by 70% between those years, costing £507 million last year. That cost was felt by consumers in the form of higher energy prices. This is all just so backwards, and the UK is not the only country that does this.
Hi.
In the US, the House Committee
There we
on
go.
Science, Space, and Technology reported that oil and gas companies are leaking more methane in the Permian Basin than they are reporting to the Environmental Protection Agency.
What?
The report says fossil fuel companies
Corporations lying? No way.
need to adopt tougher emissions surveillance measures, which was sent in a letter to the top 10 fossil fuel companies in the area. Currently, the EPA requires fossil fuel companies to check for leaks twice a year. Meanwhile, a federal court appeal upheld an 8-year prison sentence for a climate activist who vandalized Dakota Access Pipeline construction sites, calling it an act of terrorism.
What?
In 2021, Jessica Resnicek pled guilty to the charge of conspiracy to damage an energy facility, though she tried to appeal the act being called terrorism because she said she acted against a private company. The court
What? That's wild. As someone who works from home, it has more advantages, but there are... Oh, yeah, of course there's disadvantages. Everything has a pro and con. I find myself never being able to fully disconnect from work. I miss my coworkers. It's an important part of the human condition to socialize. I rarely use my PC for pleasure now because I want to disconnect ASAP after work. It's a bit of a process. I think what helps, for me anyways, is that I have a completely different setup. Like, this is my stream setup right here. This is it. There's a separate computer that's designated for work by my work on that little side over here, side table. And that separates, or at least provides a ability for me to separate that so that I don't really have to do anything when it comes to helping me separate that mental barrier between work and job. And also, I do also have no choice. Right? Because, like, as part of my job, literally nothing happens once my hours are done. It's done. The system is shut off. No more, like, physically, like, you cannot get any more calls or anything like that. So that kind of helps, and that's kind of like unique to the type of job that I do, I guess. But I completely see that happening, especially with, like, one of my friends who has sometimes, like, worked past the time he's supposed to be working. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that as being a potential disadvantage. Mayhem hippie. We've gotten to the point in technology that a lot of jobs can be done at home. I could see more than half of the jobs in the next 5 to 10 years to be completely remote. Yeah, I agree. I work past the time I'm scheduled all the time. You gotta set barriers. I tell my friend the same thing. You gotta set barriers. If your time is 9 to 5, then at 5 p.m., all right, deuces. Log off, or ask either your job, or if it's possible, to separate the actual work computer from the play computer, or work phone from the play phone, because sometimes people, like, you know, have, like, separate office, like, designated phones, depending on the nature of your job. But, like, absolutely, you've got to set boundaries, and you've got to try to adhere to them. If your job is from 9 to 5, then at 5 p.m. it's done. If you start at 9, you start at 9, and you end at 5. Easy peasy. Or at least, like, make it so that you can wire yourself that way, because it takes time to adjust. Some people just are like that. Mayhem Hippie, my friend, is just exactly like that.
Disagreed with her. In New York, Democrats with pockets full of fossil fuel and private renewable money killed the state's renewable energy bill at the last minute. The Build Public
Nice.
Renewables Act would have limited the state's public utility, the New York Power Association, to build and finance renewable projects and get the state's energy supply to 100% renewable energy by 2030. While this is one of the easier ways to get the state to switch to clean energy, both large fossil fuel-focused utility companies and private renewable companies paid politicians to oppose the bill because they didn't want their market power reduced. And in Texas, an explosion occurred at the Freeport LNG plant, causing the plant to be shut down for 3 weeks. No injuries were reported, but this is a major plant that accounts for about 20% of U.S. LNG processing. Let's finish today with some chemical news. The Center for Environmental Health and the Center for Biological Diversity are suing the EPA for the smog in Sacramento and Los Angeles, California, as well as in the state of New Hampshire. The groups allege the ozone levels, ozone produces smog, are above the 2008 Ozone National Ambient Air Quality Standards for those areas. The EPA was supposed to implement new federal plans to cut down on smog in 15 states and DC by 2019, but the groups say they never implemented those rules in California and New Hampshire. And that was your climate news for Friday, June 10th. Sorry it was so depressing. If you like the work I do, please follow this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, leave a review, and consider checking out the Beckosphere Climate Corner YouTube channel. Remember to
All right. Please help get us. Please help get that sub count up. It's not just that simple. I do set boundaries for important time, but when my client pings my email at 4 a.m., who the hell pings an email at 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, I guess depending on time zones, but Jesus Christ. You find yourself looking because what if it's an emergency? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But like, yeah, 100%. Like, no matter what, you check it, but don't respond. Don't respond. Do not respond. Do not respond until the morning. No, it's not that simple. My friend says the exact same thing. My friend says the exact same thing. This one client I despise, and most days I promise you not booking clients should not be more market urgent at 4 a.m. I almost lost my cool this morning. Yeah, like, bro, this is a problem with like people, and that's more of a that's more of a character, you know, that's more of a show of character on their part to have the audacity to email somebody in that time period thinking that, oh, you know, surely, I mean, they're at home, right? They must respond. They're at home. No, bro. Hey, DT, good to see you, my awesome dude. Hey, how'd it go? Howdy, how's it going? If I can share, I work so damn hard at work doing my best and I'm hated for it. I say when it's time to clock out, do it and fudge it. Not worth it anymore. Yep, that's usually what happens to employees who actually care about their jobs and are not rewarded or not appreciated or not acknowledged. I can absolutely see that being the course of action. Of course. Why would you? I mean, if you're going to get the same pay, right? if you're gonna get the same pay and you're not getting the recognition or acknowledgement or pay raise, more importantly, that you deserve because you're doing such hard work and you're trying to do your best, and instead are hated for it, I wouldn't do it either. Just saying. I would be in your exact same thought process. Alright, we got some good memes queued up. Okay. So, clearly the January 6th hearings have ruffled the feathers of the biggest snowflake on the planet, Donald Trump. So much so that he decided to, at this point, infinity double down, triple down, infinity down on the false election false election claims and whatever. So, naturally, we gotta go over it. I like this cat. Thank you. That's Vaquita the cat. She is the resident studio kitty that hangs out with us on Saturday, Catterday especially, too. Our nation is suffering. Our economy is in the gutter. Inflation is rampant. Gas prices have reached an all-time high. Ships are unable to unload cargo. Families cannot get needed baby formula. We are an embarrassment around the world. Our withdrawal from Afghanistan was a disaster that cost us precious American blood and gave $85 billion worth the best military equipment on earth to our enemy. First of all, that 85 billion is not correct. Most of that was destroyed. The equipment that did end up surviving under Taliban hands is mostly non-operational now. Oh man, I was watching a story on the state of the equipment that did get left behind. Is all broken down. Like I saw a video of a Humvee, like all battered up with like 3 wheels. Shoot, I gotta find the actual, let's see. Now. Really? Where's that story? Like, it was just a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Have you seen when Colbert has a little kid read Trump best ever? Yeah, the left garbage over there, that's all. Oh, they left garbage there. Yeah, exactly. Trump is whining. Yeah, but the problem is, it's not just whining. Which story? There's a story, like, on the state of the equipment that was left behind. It's all, like, completely in deterioration. And now I can't find the story. But anyways, my point being is that, like, no, the best military equipment on Earth is useless to anybody who doesn't have the ability to repair it or produce parts or anything like that. So naturally, within a year and so, it has just kind of decayed. All the pics I've seen are junk. Yeah. Most of the equipment isn't like, they don't have the capability or parts or, because it's very technical stuff, to upkeep that equipment. It requires resources. So, yeah, anyways, that was my point. Oh, these ads. Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's there we go. That's the story that I'm looking for. I can't see any of this. These ads are horrible. Oh, I see. Okay, so Trump's 85 billion isn't the equipment cost, it's the totality. The totality spent to train and equip the entire Afghan army, not the equipment value itself. Certainly, our objectives is not to leave them with any equipment, but that is not always an option when you're looking to retrograde and move out of a war zone. Mackenzie stressed that the equipment would be of no use in combat, but it will be likely displayed by the Taliban as trophies in their decades-long fight to retake their country. The system and materials will have little more than symbolic value. Yep. Afghan pilots flew some of the advanced aircraft to foreign countries. Much of the rest was abandoned. The military left behind 27 Humvees, light tactical vehicles that were replaced by MRAPs in Iraq and Afghanistan after they proved vulnerable to IED attacks. The Humvee's price tag was less than a third of our MRAP. So, like, bro, they barely left. Like, first of all, the amount of equipment was not as much as Trump thinks that it was. Or he's just simply lying. I mean, the guy lies to lie. And he's also lying about the actual price tag. The actual 83 billion that he's talking about isn't the value of the equipment. It was the money spent in the totality to train and equip the Afghan army. I know what's wrong with it. It doesn't have gas. Yes. MTG calls Biden a communist. Yeah. When in doubt, when you have absolutely no arguments, just ad hom something about communism or socialism and it'll work. It'll work the same on the conservative mindset. If you just scream communism and socialism, that's it. That's all you need to do. You could salvage armor, but that's about it. Yeah. Okay. So that's a lie. Dude, we're already in the first paragraph and we can't even get through it without having to fact check the first couple of sentences. Millions and millions of illegals are marching. Guys, they're marching to the border and invading our country. Jesus Christ. We have a White House in shambles. I didn't realize that. With Democrats just this week declaring that Biden is unfit to run for re-election. I wonder which Democrats are saying that. That being said, I do not think that the Democratic Party should run Joe Biden. I'm just saying. And what is the Democrat Congress focused on? A kangaroo court, hoping to distract the American people from the great pain that they are experiencing. First of all, it's not a kangaroo court. It's a hearing. It's a hearing to display testimonies under oath about what happened on January 6th. 17 months after the events of January 6th, Democrats are unable to offer solutions. To what? They are desperate to change the narrative of a failing nation without even making mention of the havoc and death caused by the radical left just months earlier. So what aboutism? Cool. Make no mistake, they control the government. They own this disaster. Which disaster? They are hoping that these hearings will somehow alter their failing prospects. It really doesn't matter if it increases or decreases their chances. The reality is it should be shown. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know if the airings of the January 6th hearings are going to make a difference. It just depends. It just depends on how people taking it. Howdy, howdy. As for abandoning allies, I don't remember any MAGA complaining when Trump abandoned the Kurds because they don't care about principles. Not like its supporters will read a several-page document. That's true. I'm hoping Cheney will run just to stick it to the MAGA some more. I don't know, like, listen, putting up Cheney as some kind of, like, righteous Republican is misguided. She's bad. She's just as bad. People, like, want to give her a pass because she decided to do, like, the one right thing, which is be like, hey, whoa, you know what? Circumventing democratic norms and undermining arguably the most important institution, our electoral system, is like the bare minimum that one could possibly have. But yeah, other than that, she's atrocious. She has like a 90% plus vote along like Trump's agenda anyways. The only thing that your Trump impression isn't bad. The only thing that set her apart is because she drew the line at, hey, maybe we shouldn't circumvent democratic norms. Never said I just hate the MAGA and Biden's a placeholder. Yeah, Biden only got the purpose of Biden was to stop another Trump presidency, really. To me, anyways. Because, I mean, what other choice was there, really? Not like its supporters will read a several-page document. True. Although a Liz Cheney running in the primary, well, I don't even know if she has like I mean, maybe her running in the primary could shake things up, and could possibly kind of divide. Maybe, I don't know, but like the Republicans are very good at being in lockstep. So as soon as they rally behind somebody, that's it. In this case, it would be Trump. I do not want no Trump. Makes Nixon look good. Not even. They're both pretty bad. Although, Nixon didn't attempt to, coup the government. Nixon didn't have a bunch of supporters that attempted to make like a coup. So we'll say that's like the bare minimum. Jesus Christ. Is that really the separating factor that we're like applying here? Oh man, imagine the state of the Republican Party that's what makes you different. If they nominate her and Biden as the Dem, she gets my vote. Nah, she's just as atrocious to me. I see almost virtually no ideological difference between her and Trump. Because if you see her voting record, it's almost the same. I don't care if she has a nice face or like a kinder way about it, but it's the same who. Sorry, it's the same person. Nominate who? Cheney. Watergate, maybe without his knowledge, was the R worried that the Dems would win and were breaking into the campaign quarters of the Dems. Yeah, but that was like an op to get information or to like figure out what was going on. Right. Yeah, sure, hombre. She doesn't start insurrection, so she'll just do the agenda without without the baggage. That's not good. In other words, it'll be nicer. That's not good for me. That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me. Having the exact same platform or supporting the same platform as Donald Trump is not good enough for me. I can't support it in any way, shape, or form. Hail to the F no. True. Millions of illegals are marching to the border. Millions, folks. A kangaroo court hoping to distract the American people from the great pain they're experiencing. 17 months after the events, Democrats are unable to offer solutions to what? Oh, sorry, I already read this. As one Democrat said, it's the economy, stupid. Well, Democrats seem to have think that the Americans are stupid. They're not. America's crumbling. Democrats have no solutions. Our nation has no hope for change for the better under Democratic leadership. People are desperate. Rather than solving problems, Democrats are rehashing history in hopes... History? Bro, that was 2 years ago! In hopes of changing the narrative. During my time in office, our nation was thriving. Our economy was strong, and the price of gas was very low. Now, Donnie boy, what could have possibly happened in the middle of that started the downhill spiral that we're looking at here? What could have possibly happened in that timeline? Could somebody point that out to me? It was a very big thing. I don't know. Maybe because some folks still think it was a hoax and never happened. What could have possibly been the factor that changed? We need the norms back after the Trump cult. Sorry, the Republican Party is the Trump cult. You got to sort that out. The January 6th Unselect Committee is disgracing everything we hold sacred about our Constitution. Oh, like continuously undermining the electoral process, arguably the most sacred thing about the Constitution, the democracy thing, arguably the most like vital aspect. What are we reading? Trump's response to the hearings. If they had any real evidence, they'd hold hearings with equal representation. Yeah. The Republican Party refused. The Democrats actually asked or offered a complete, straight down the middle 5-5 split with equal subpoena power for these hearings. So, no, you're the one that has shit to hide. That's on you. They don't, so they use the illegally constituted committee. There's no illegality or unconstitutional, anything unconstitutional about making committees. To put on a smoke and mirror show for the American people, wrong, in a pitiful last-ditch effort to deceive the American public again. Yeah, I guess, testimony under oath, documents, emails, communications, all of that. Yep. I thought it was written by someone's little brother. No, that's the former president. The Republican president. Our Constitution protects the right to confront accusers, honor the rights to fair trials, and hold the right to legal representation as paramount in our justice system. True, except this isn't a trial, my friend. Equal representation and equal opportunity to offer rebuttal evidence is fundamental in our legal process. This isn't really a legal process. There are aspects where you are being asked to testify under oath, under congressional oath, meaning if you lie, you get clapped for perjury. But it is not like a criminal case or anything like that. So no, this is not anything related to that. And furthermore, if you're complaining about equal representation and opportunities to offer rebuttal evidence, which you had, you didn't take it. That's a you problem. Okay? You talked to the Republican Party and asked them why they didn't take up the opportunity to have equal subpoena power and equal members on the committee. They have refused to allow their political opponents to participate in the process that have excluded all exculpatory witnesses and anyone who could easily point out the flaws in their story. Really? That's interesting. So where were they? I mean, if it's true, why didn't you jump at the opportunity to have your 5 and 5, right? Equal 5, equal subpoena power. You could have called in whoever you wanted. You could have put into the record under oath whoever you wanted to testify to offer rebuttal evidence. But you didn't. You didn't. You didn't because you have none. He'll get his chance for all that when we charge him. I said this to the other person, or maybe it was you. I don't see any consequences coming down the road. Not to be cynical. I don't see any consequences. MAGA witnesses were interrogated behind closed doors in order not to record their own testimony. Source: members of my staff, friends, supporters, volunteers, donors are subject to hours upon hours of inquisition and questioning, oftentimes having nothing to do with January 6th. Then why were they called? Their very lives were turned upside down for obvious reasons. They were told it was an ongoing investigation, true, and any reproduction of the investigation would be reviewed as an attempt to interfere with the investigation. Yes, that's usually how it works. Obstruction, contempt of Congress, those are things. Remember, law and order, unless you know, law and order, I don't like the said law. Law and order for everybody else except for me and my people. Yet the select committee has coordinated with their media puppets. Are we getting into dog whistles? To broadcast their witnesses on national television without any opposition, cross-examination, or rebuttal evidence. Again, that's a you problem. If you did, the Republican Party had all the opportunity in the world to have a 5 and 5 equal, split down the middle, bipartisan committee. They refused. You can't complain when you had the opportunity to do so. Why is that? And it's not a secret. It's not a secret. They didn't do this behind his back. The American public has a right to know the truth and see every witness, but these corrupt officials are trying to force-feed the public with their politically opportune sideshow. Wrong. You had the opportunity. You didn't want to because you know that you are responsible. What are the members of this treasonous committee afraid of? Why can't they let countervailing opinions be heard? You have to ask your own party. Why are they hiding evidence from the public and only showing information that favors Democrats' tall tale? You had every opportunity to submit your testimonies, your evidence into the record. So that's a you problem, my friend. They're afraid of losing the narrative because their political opponents could easily show how the committee is lying to the nation and has stripped Americans of their rightful power. What? Okay. If it's so easy, testify under oath. If it's so easy, testify under oath. Go ahead. Answer questions under oath. If it's so easy to dismantle all these lies, okay. Cool. testify under oath. They've shown motive and criminal intent. In just 2 days, he's going to be charged, or there's no justice in this nation. I really don't think that any consequences, except like the folks who were blatantly committing seditious acts, like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keeper militias. I think those guys are going to get clapped for seditious behavior, as they should. But I don't see any like legitimate accountability coming from the people who not only spurred this on, but for anybody of those folks. Really, I just don't see it. Right, I like pie. What is it? Gaslight, obstruct, and project. The GOP way. Democrats created the narrative of January 6th to detract from a much larger and more important truth that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. Source? Source? Politicians from both parties. Oh, look at that. So everybody's in on it. Damn. But mostly Democrats, gotcha. Worked in conjunction with corporatist elites. Yikes. Yikes. If Trump was innocent, why not comment at all? Because independents will now not vote for MAGA, maybe? I don't know. I think that a lot of independents are probably going to stay home. That's my fear. The politicians who encourage and organize the crowd in that location and need consequences too, but that will never happen. True. Corporate elitist. Yikes. To strip Americans of our right to elect our own leaders. To do so, corrupt officials violated their own state laws. Source. And furthermore, if that was the case, then if that was true, if Trump actually gave a shit about any of this, wouldn't then you be in favor of going by popular vote? In which case, Joe Biden won by 12 million votes? Sounds like to me, Americans exercise that right to elect their own leader. That sounds like that's what happened. Who have been shown involved with this, those subordinates, a conspiracy requires more than useful idiots who carried out the attacks. Wait, what? What was that? What was that in reference to? I have other issues that will keep me home, mostly fluid living circumstances. No, I mean willingness to engage politically. Not like any physical issues or issues that may keep people physically home. Especially if you're under those circumstances. Yeah, I'm not taking that into consideration. I'm taking people who are politically charged who will get activated. I suspect that in that camp, independents won't show up as much. The separation of powers is designed to make sure that no official become dictators by granting authority to make laws with legislature and execute laws with the executive branch. Yeah, I know. And no official should become a dictator by attempting to install themselves and forcing themselves into power like you. It must be separated among different offices. In 2020, separation of powers went out the window. The state executive branch in both red and blue states decided to completely ignore state laws, make up their own rules, and execute them. In other words, they became little dictators. Of our constitution was designed. Wait, so is he in favor of separation? Is he in favor of having state governments decide, or is he in favor of having a whole national rules across the board for elections? I thought Republicans were against that. The memes just write themselves. Trump subordinates were directly in contact with the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Some were, yes. They illegally inflated voter rolls. How? illegally allowed harvested and stuffed ballots, how abused the use of mail-in ballots, how physically removed Republicans from counting facilities, dubious, no evidence of that whatsoever, removed Republicans from counting facilities, abused the elderly in nursing homes, what? Source? Bribed election officials with donations, source? Stopped counting on election night, yeah, it takes a few days, yes. Democrats have 3 extra days to harvest ballots and demand that American people believe it was legitimate. Yes, that's how it works. Yes, you don't get a magical, like, you don't press a magical button the day of the election and get the... This has never happened. The entire charade of the Select Committee is a brazen attempt to detract the public's attention from the truth. The truth is that the Americans showed up in Washington, D.C. in massive numbers, but seldom revealed by the press on January 6th, to hold their elected officials accountable by staging a coup for the obvious signs of criminal activity throughout the election. Those who are supposed to be public servants are using the power of the government against the people who entrusted them with power. We've been betrayed. Remember, folks, this is all, by the way, this is unbelievably irresponsible and tantamount to like stochastic terrorism. The Republicans who were intimidating election workers because they probably should be removed. Yeah, exactly. That's true. So there was ties. So there's your tie into the conspiracy for Trump. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, like, sure. I could believe that. There's no way in my head that Trump didn't at least know something that was going on, and yet did nothing. Veiled Sphinx, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Remember, there's no other course of action that you could possibly take. So violence is gonna be it. That's literally it right there. That's literally it right there. That's the rhetoric that led to the January 6th coup. Or insurrection. Probably insurrection is a better word. That rhetoric is what led to the January 6th insurrection. Since the Select Committee refuses to allow political opponents to participate in the hearings, wrong again. Republicans were offered complete, split down the middle, bipartisan, equal subpoena power and all. They didn't take it. It's all ridiculous and treasonous. That's rich. Attempt to cover up the fact that Democrats rigged the election and are siphoning Americans' freedoms and power for their own benefit. Can we get a source on that? Without the ability to have political, legal, or witness representation from conservatives in this kangaroo court, it's not a court. It's up to the American patriots to arm themselves. Oh, Jesus. Whew. Arm themselves with information. This hearing isn't about January 6th. It's about November 3rd, and here's what happened. Okay. On election night, America watched as my lead grew and grew over Joe Biden. Yes, we know that Republicans tended to vote in person because you put in the ether that you shouldn't vote by mail because they were going to be fraudulent for months and months before the election. So yeah, no shit. Most of the Republican voters went in person, so those votes were counted then. And then the mail-in votes started happening because that's how you do the election. That's literally happened every single election. He doesn't know how to speak in non-insurrection language. Yeah, this is stochastic terrorism. That's what I'm saying. Trump won't face justice. Trump won't face justice will lead to violence as well. I think maybe, or maybe the fact that if Trump ends up like in an unprecedented scenario where Trump ends up getting clapped for whatever crime, election crime or whatever it is. I don't know what the statute would be. That might cause a violent response. Trump is too thick to understand you. There's no getting through. The world is so scary when you're this stupid. Anything that you don't understand is a danger. Yeah, but this is more of a conditioning. I don't know if it's necessarily stupid. It's a conditioning. This is your brain on conservatism. By morning of November 4th, the day after the election, I led by 700,000 votes, 300,000 in Michigan, and hundreds of thousands in Georgia. Arizona, Wisconsin, then the same little dictators who destroyed the separation of powers made treasonous decisions to stop counting. Okay. These same states who had counted millions of ballots in a single day had to stop in order to count a few 100,000 ballots over the next 4 days to call the race on November 7th. Why would it take 4 more days to count a few 100,000 votes when they had counted millions in one day? They needed time to traffic the ballots and manipulate the outcome. The swamp was so desperate to keep their stranglehold on power that they delayed the results so that they could find, manufacture, or produce more ballots. Source? Now, all of this is just gobbledygook. I mean, like, there's just no, there's just no, like, there's nothing to respond here to other than, like, delusions of a madman. I don't know if he wrote it physically, but there's definitely heavy input. There's definitely heavy input from Trump. I mean, it really sounds like a speech. Hey, Imperfect Pixels, how's it going? I heard that tomorrow's hearing is canceled until Thursday. Oh, shoot. Wait, I think you might be right. Was it due to like a medical emergency? Like one of the witnesses had like a medical emergency or something? Oh yeah, he can write like tweets. Yeah, there are footnotes. And the sources are okay. In highly respected True the Votes, Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips showed the nation exactly what Democrats' illegal ballot trafficking scheme looked like. They spent years investigating election crimes, and their hard work provided America with the indisputable proof that so many had been waiting for. Cool. So would you care to present that in a court of law where you're under oath and have to testify? Would you care to present that there? Because that's where it counts. True the Vote had cooperated with Dinesh D'Souza to produce the blockbuster documentary 2,000 Mules, which provides video evidence of the ballot trafficking schemes Democrats have created. Engelbrecht and Phillips used geofencing data that they have purchased to isolate and identify potential mules. Like drug mules in this context, mules are paid to illegally traffic ballots from nonprofit organizations and drop them into ballot drop boxes. The search criteria they used to isolate cell phone data has been to 10 or more ballot drop boxes, while also visiting 5 identified nonprofit organizations during a week of 2 periods. So the sources are Peter Navarro, 2,000 Mules, which has been disproven constantly. True the Vote and local law enforcement have the video surveillance showing the mules dropping many ballots. Oh, really? That's interesting. Where's the case? That's very interesting. What case number am I looking at to follow one of the most arguably important cases of American history, if that's the case? One witness had day 2, their wife went into labor. Okay, gotcha. So it was like okay, gotcha. It doesn't matter that he's citing Dinesh, so it purely exists in the footnotes, gives the appearance of structured discussion to those unwilling to analyze critically. True. House Sparks covered DeSouza's movie. It's a dung movie. Yeah. It's all based on like just dubious claims that have no real legitimate evidence behind it. Because like I ask this question every single time, and nobody can answer this question. If it's true, if you have all this evidence, all these witnesses, video, geofencing data, all of this. Why am I hearing it from Dinesh D'Souza instead of following one of the most important court cases in American history? That's it. That's the only question I have. If all this is true and all of this is legitimate evidence, great, awesome. Care to present that in a court? Care to present that with testimony that's under oath, so that if you lie, you get clapped for perjury? Care to do that? No, of course not, because it's not true. Evidence is irrelevant. Better belief that evidence exists is all that matters these days. Yeah, and dubious like cut video. Because the courts that Trump packed won't acknowledge the issue because they're liberal plants too. Right. The guy who simultaneously elects the best people and selects the best people for the job also happens to also simultaneously select the worst people who have no idea what they're doing or are liberal plants. Amazing. I mean, how do you continue to square these circles? How do these people continue? Like the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen in my life is to have such devotion to a personality, like a political personality. It's just wild to me. Like, it's just wild to me. Yet the dishonest media puts experts front and center to tell America that true evidence is unreliable. Yeah, God forbid. God forbid we put experts who understand and know what they're talking about to debunk this garbage. No, this is just dishonest. Oh, you're in a cult. You're in a cult. Imagine reading this sentence. Dishonest media puts experts at the front and center to demonstrate how my claims are unreliable. Okay. We were always at war with Oceania. The inconsistency is a feature, not to have to reconcile inconsistent beliefs and makes life easier. True. Taking 5 seconds to critically evaluate the statements that are being put in front of me. No way. Why do I need that? Good morning. Does anyone have any idea when the heading was postponed until Thursday, I believe? Yes. The hypocrisy is stifling. The swamp has blown the bottom of out. They'll go to deceive the American people, the American public, in order to keep their vice grip on power. Thankfully, Americans are taking the responsibility for what they believe and simply no longer believe the narrative. What narrative? The truth is, according to Joe Biden, the swamp has created the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Number 12. Joe Biden. Okay.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
I agree. And yet none of it was able to find the fraud that you're alleging. Okay, so this is just a script for 2000 Mules. All of this is just citing 2000 Mules, a YouTube video, 2000 Mules. Understand that this is a source that he's blaming, that he's using to back his divorced from reality rant. It's basically 2,000 Mules, which is a garbage documentary. No one should give money to Dinesh D'Souza to watch it. 17 citations from one source. Not great. Not good. As a writer and editor, the effing section headings are also killing me. Yeah, this is Trump, okay? So we gotta work with what we have, okay? Yeah, he's both sleepy and lazy, but also a progressive tyrant, right? This is the same thing, like the same thing that they do. They call any like they simultaneously say that people like socialists or communists are lazy and entitled and all this other stuff, but also ruthless, organized dictators ready to take power. Like, I don't know, man. You gotta pick a freaking lane. Or maybe you just don't care and your idea is to obfuscate while you're the one who is actually undermining democratic processes. Maybe that's it. So yeah, I've subjected you guys to way too much of this garbage.
Last week, we presented the testimony of former Attorney General Bill Barr, who testified before this committee. Today, we present additional evidence, including his testimony that former President Trump started making claims.
And it was like playing whack-a-mole, that they were without merit.
So let's play the video.
The department, in fact, when we received specific and credible allegations of fraud, made an effort to look into these to satisfy ourselves that they were without merit. And I was in the posture of trying to figure out there was an avalanche of all these allegations of fraud that built up over a number of days, and it was like playing whack-a-mole because something would come out one day and then the next day it would be another issue. Also, I was influenced by the fact that all the early claims that I understood were completely bogus and silly and usually based on complete misinformation. And so I didn't consider the quality of claims right out of the box to give me any feeling that there was really substance here.
For the first time since the election, the Attorney General spoke personally with the president on November 23rd, and this was at the White House.
Yeah, so that was the Attorney General personally selected by the president because that's their authority. They have that ability. Yeah, no further questions, Your Honor.
House. Let's play the video, please.
So on November 23rd, I hadn't spoken to the president since the election, and in fact, as I said, since the middle of October, roughly. And it was a little getting awkward because obviously he had lost the election and I hadn't said anything to him. And so Cipollone said, I think it's time you come over here. And so I came over to meet with the president in the Oval Office, and Meadows and Cipollone were there. And the president, and this is leading up to this conversation with Kushner, the president said there had been major fraud and that as soon as the facts were out, the results of the election would be reversed. And he went on this for quite a while, as he's prone to do. And then he got to something that I was expecting, which is to say that apparently the Department of Justice doesn't think that it has a role of looking into these fraud claims. So I said, that has to be the campaign that raises that with the state. The department doesn't take sides in elections, and the department is not an extension of your legal team. And our role is to investigate fraud, and we'll look at something if it's specific, credible, and could have affected the outcome of the election. And we're doing that, and it's just not. They're just not meritorious. They're not panning out.
They're just not panning out. This is like just realistically, any reasonable person would listen to this, and that would be the end of the conversation. Bro, if your own attorney general that you selected is telling you, listen, man, we get you, we heard you, we looked into it, because it's very serious, and it should be taken very seriously when there's like allegations of like massive fraud or massive election shenanigans. That should be taken very seriously. We did. We looked into it. They were all meritless. End of conversation. No further questions. William Barr has basically provided all the information that we could possibly need in response to Trump's delusional rant.
Running while black is not running from anything. It's pushing forward, having everything. Communal.
Wait, what?
Powerful. We are here.
I'm 75 years old. I had to get out of this trailer. It was making me sick. Now I'm living in my truck. Tonight I'm going to try to lay across this way because my leg's swelling so bad.
They just kept raising it, and I felt like I was losing control of my life.
Private equity is about the quick buck, everything else be damned.
Damn, that's not really what I,
How much money would the world gain by ending coal use?
That's not really what I wanted, but, Jesus. Barr really turned on Trump, so expected. Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you get those people on the record where if they have to testify under oath, like where consequences can be doled out, like perjury charges or whatnot, that guy isn't gonna lie. Heck no. Heck no. When it comes down to it, when the chips are down, if you're testifying under oath, the game changes. The game changes.
And how much has extreme weather events already cost emerging economies' GDPs? Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, science writer. Today is Monday, June 13th. Let's jump right into the news you need to start your day. Let's start with a climate event. Almost all of Portugal is experiencing severe drought after the end of May dried out and heated up the country. May was the hottest southern Europe has seen in 92 years, according to the weather service IPMA. Over 97% of Portugal is in severe drought, which is one knockdown from extreme. Now on to some climate studies. The International Monetary Fund found major gains from phasing out coal by, quote, comparing the current value of the benefits from avoided emissions against the present value of costs from ending coal plus the cost of replacing it with renewable energy. In a new report, it found that the world could see a net gain of $77.98 trillion, which represents 1.2% of the world's current GDP every year until 2100. The fund says carbon pricing and other policies should absolutely be pursued. Meanwhile, new research shows that extreme weather events have already knocked out a fifth of emerging economies' GDPs over the last 2 decades. Emerging economies are pushing for wealthy countries to help pay for the cost of damages and losses brought on by extreme weather events like typhoons, wildfires, and floods. The study was conducted by a consortium of financial ministers representing 55 emerging economies across Africa, Asia, the Americas, and the Pacific. The financial minister of Ghana, who wrote the report's preface, said that the findings should, quote, send alarm bells for the world economy. And a senior researcher at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, warns that Australia could be hit by a rare triple La Niña. It's not particularly unusual for La Niñas to come in pairs, like Australia has seen, one from October 2020 to March 2021, and one from November 2021 until now. This last one produced record-breaking flooding earlier this year, and it appears to be lasting longer than usual. And now their next summer looks likely to brew another one, with ocean temperatures being as cold over there as they are for this time of year. The last time it's experienced a triple La Niña was over 20 years ago. Overall, global warming is disrupting normal ocean heat patterns, producing the cold spell. Let's stay in Australia for our first climate victory. New South Wales, Australia's most populous state, announced it would invest $850 million in upgrading its transmission lines over the next 10 years to accept more clean energy. The state hopes to attract an additional $10 billion from the private sector. 50 projects worth of about 16,000 megawatts of clean energy have installed due to the outdated grid system. New Zealand's Environment Ministry proposed a burp tax for cows and sheep as a way to reduce livestock emissions. Nearly half of New Zealand's agriculture emissions come from livestock, and that's mainly because livestock burps methane, which is a gas 84 times more potent than CO2 for the first 20 years they're in the atmosphere. Cow burps represent 10% of overall global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. So this new rule would begin in 2025 and include incentives to reduce burp emissions through planting trees, giving the livestock methane-capturing face masks, and switching their diet. The last one seems to be the most humane and helpful method to me because several studies have shown that feeding cattle seaweed significantly reduces their methane output. We'll know by the end of the year if this burp tax will pass. In Asia, China announced it will allow battery storage facilities to trade electricity to make the industry more appealing to investors. The goal is to accelerate the build-out of independent battery storage facilities to be able to take in the growing amount of solar and wind projects. The government also wants regional authorities to create price mechanisms that entice power companies to participate in the market. What's interesting is this plan doesn't include pumped hydro facilities, which is the dominant type of energy storage in China. But pumped hydro is still expected to get a boost from 32 gigawatts now to 120 gigawatts by 2030. Over to the Americas, U.S. officials announced that 4 development banks will jointly facilitate $50 billion over the next 5 years towards climate goals in Latin America and the Caribbean. The lenders are the Inter-American Development Bank, the CAF Development Bank of Latin America, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. This announcement came from a conference Biden recently had with some Latin American countries. President Biden is also seeking the private sector to help boost projects. Some of the first projects the government is likely to pursue involve reducing deforestation in Brazil, Colombia, and Peru. 15 countries have joined the Renewable Energy in Latin America and the Caribbean, or RELIC, initiative to run on 70% clean energy by 2030, and more are likely to join. The U.S. agreed in 2015, along with other wealthy nations, to provide $100 billion annually to help emerging economies shift to clean energy. And this $50 billion over 5 years falls quite short on that, but it's the largest effort we've seen so far from the U.S. government. In more U.S. news, the Biden administration announced it has started the process to designate the Hudson Canyon off of New York and New Jersey as a new marine sanctuary. The announcement came on World Oceans Day, which I totally forgot to wish y'all a happy day for on Wednesday, by the way. The plan is part of Biden's America the Beautiful initiative, which works to preserve 30% of federal lands and waters by 2030. The Hudson Canyon is home to sea turtles, deep-sea coral, and sperm whales.
Nice.
NOAA will write up an environmental impact assessment and write a management plan, which could take over a year. It is now seeking out public comment for designation, its potential name, and information on the area's indigenous and tribal heritage. Now for some climate fails. Poland's prime minister is pushing for more output from coal plants to bring down heating costs and energy prices, going against his climate obligation of reducing coal output. 1 in 3 Polish homes is heated by coal, making it one of the most coal-reliant countries in the European Union. The price of imported coal has gone up by 100% due to the Russian-Ukrainian war, though overall the price of energy was going up before the war, despite Poland's increase of domestic production. Meanwhile, the UK looks like it's sliding more and more back into its fossil fuel habit, to the extent that even a Shell chief executive officer commented on it. Regulators just approved Shell to develop in the Jackdaw natural gas field in the North Sea, which was previously rejected on environmental grounds. The Cambo oil field might be back on the table for Shell, which previously backed out of the deal. I know I said on Thursday that European fossil fuel companies are moving a bit faster towards clean energy than American ones, but they're still doubling down on fossil fuels at the same time. They're honestly just trying to dominate the renewable sector as well. Over in the US, the watchdog group, the Environmental Integrity Project, reported that there's at least 19 agreements to supply 24 million tons of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, per year beginning in 2026. A quarter of that is expected to go to Europe. Over time, LNG exports from these projects could reach over 90 million tons a year, which is the equivalent to emissions of 18 million gas-powered cars driving for a year. And that's just direct emissions, so it doesn't account for methane leaks. Now, these agreements still need permitting and funding, so there's still time to change this trajectory. A new report by the utility watchdog Energy and Policy Institute found that Southern Company, one of the largest and most profitable electric utility companies in the US, knew about climate change back in 1964, yet continued to build fossil fuel facilities and fund climate misinformation groups.
Yep.
Southern Company serves over 9 million people across 6 states. This is a good reminder that it's not just the fossil fuel companies that were spreading misinformation.
True.
Finally, let's finish with some really big chemical news stories. The EU mandated USB-C to be the common smartphone and tablet charger by 2024 and by 2026 for laptops. The goal is to reduce e-waste and make customers' lives easier by making chargers uniform. This is a big blow to Apple in particular. The UK said it would not replicate this move. And U.S. national parks, wildlife refuges, and other public lands have begun the process of phasing out single-use plastics entirely. This will take until 2032, according to the Department of the Interior. Single-use plastic items will be replaced with biodegradable, reusable, or fully recyclable items.
Okay.
And that was your climate news for Monday, June 13th. If you like the work I do, please follow this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, leave a review, and consider checking out the Becksphere Climate Corner YouTube channel. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations.
Based. All right, folks. Oops. Please consider supporting that channel. Shoot, I didn't even do my spiel. All right, I guess we'll do that now. Folks, we do need to take a second to talk about this month's sponsor, Factor. Factor is a company that was recently bought by HelloFresh. Get fresh, ready-made meals delivered to your doorstep when you signed out with Factor. Factor's chef-created meals are fresh, never frozen, and designed by dietitians to ensure every meal is packed with premium science-based nutritional quality. No more meal prep, no more dishes, no more unhealthy fast food. Factor offers the most convenient way to get well while eating, eat well while eating right. They offer veggie and vegan options as well. Make sure you use the code FACTOR SC1962 for $120 off, or hit the exclamation mark FACTOR. Also, folks, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It does help us out. And you get 5 free emotes, including Bakita the cat. How could you say no to that, huh? Spread the word far and wide that this is a chillest place to be for news and politics, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And join us for Saturday Caturdays around noon Eastern Time. Join the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button. Join the Discord to keep up with the channel. Folks, as always, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Spread It Forward. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out here. Thank you for the new follows. I appreciate that. Veiled Sphinx, Lenny, and The Ween Plays. I appreciate that. Posh Murder for the offline follow. Thank you all for your support. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I appreciate it. You make every day better. See you tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate it. Later. Folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Alio with the 10 biddies on our way out. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Alrighty, folks. We are heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya!